Funding for Colores was provided in part by Frederick Hammersley Foundation. This time on Colores, Tewa artist Jason Garcia combines traditional Pueblo art forms with pop culture.
What fuels my work is looking at documenting the ever-changing cultural landscape of Santa Clara, my Pueblo.
The Missing Piece Art Space focuses on projects that bring diverse communities together.
You can sit with a pile of materials and begin to use your own memories to create something for someone else to see. There's a power in that expression that is beyond words.
Dance, the Next Generation, is a 10-year program which gives students a chance to achieve their dreams.
Art is a great form of being able to bring something out in people. You have different doors that you can open which might give that release to make them be able to be more secure in life.
It's all ahead on Colores. Santa Clara Pueblo's Jason Garcia documents the changing cultural landscape.
My name is Jason Garcia, and I also go by the name Olkupin, which translates to Turtle Mountain, which is also represents the Sandia Mountains that are located east of Albuquerque. I'm from the Pueblo of Santa Clara, and also which is the traditional Tewa name for that is Hop Owinge, which means rose path. What fuels my work is looking at documenting the ever-changing cultural landscape of Santa Clara, my Pueblo, hearing the language of Tewa being spoken, of being surrounded by visual landmarks, mountains, hills, valleys, streams, digging for clay, looking for new mineral pigments for my work, experimentation. My children, asking them what their thoughts of certain items that should be placed in my work.
Was the Pikachu, was that their idea?
Yeah,
something exactly. They said they want that in the work.
Right, exactly. Or there's the story of where I had the little girl with the thought bubble, and she had a bowl of beans, and the title of the piece is Beans Again, and I said, well, what do you think the little girl's thinking about in terms of what do you think she wants to eat? And they said Pizza Hut.
Jason, your work points to the link between historical memory and tradition with contemporary constructions. Why is that an important piece of your work?
I think it's important to tie the two and see how the history of my own Tewa culture, participation in Tewa ceremonies and Santa Clara Pueblo ceremonies and life relates to the present, of being a Pueblo Indian living in the 21st century.
How do you see your work as documentation?
One of my influences was the late Pueblita Velarde of Santa Clara Pueblo. She was a painter of the Santa Fe Indian Studio. Pueblita was documenting the way that the Pueblo was changing, but then also seeing how the Pueblo was still able to maintain its cultural traditions, its cultural identity. So I think for my own self, I'm doing the same thing of documenting the ever-changing cultural landscape of Santa Clara Pueblo, showing television, cell phones, gambling, different social problems coming into the Pueblo and seeing how that's changing certain lifestyles of the Pueblo, but we're still maintaining our cultural identity, our ceremonies, our language is still there. I grew up in a very artistic environment in Santa Clara Pueblo. My maternal and paternal grandmothers are both potters, so I would go to my maternal grandmother's house after school, and my aunts and my grandmother and my mother would be working on pottery. So that seeing them creating pottery, mixing mud, and always wanting to have a hand in it, and always wanting to create, and always wanting to do something. And at that time, they'd be decorating their pottery with different Pueblo iconography. And, being 5, 6, 7 years old, I didn't necessarily understand the symbology. So I would usually create something that I was more familiar with, which at that time was Star Wars or Spider-Man, Darth Vader. So this was something that was the visual language I understood.
Things that found themselves on the Pueblo, too,
right? Exactly.
They were there.
And growing up with MTV and growing up with cable television in the home, I was always been immersed in popular culture.
So you talk about these stories for the future. What are some of these stories that you want to get across to the children or to you?
I think some of the stories are, the Tewa Tells the Suspense is a body of work that uses Tewa historical events, Pueblo historic events like the Pueblo Revolt or the colonization of New Mexico and its impact on the Tewa peoples at that time. And it's using comic book covers in order to tell that story. Another body of work that I have is the Corn Maiden series, which shows technology's influence on 21st century Pueblo culture. It shows Pueblo people maintaining a distinct Pueblo identity, but it also shows the influence of technology like the satellite dishes or TV antennas or cell phones. The cell phone and the satellite dish is a receiver and transmitter, much like our prayers and our songs are. They describe how clouds form or how lightning travels, or, these songs are prayers, are incantations for rain, and where we're receiving and sending that message between, the earth, the world where we're at, the plazas, and sending out that signal out to the universe. So in that sense, it's a juxtaposition of technology, of that medium between those two worlds. And then also the symbol of technology represents St. Clare of Assisi, our patron saint, which we celebrate on August 12th. So that symbol, the television antenna, the satellite dish, that's a symbol that marks the place of Santa Clara Pueblo, of Hop Owingeh.
As an artist, what do you think your job is? What do you think your role is?
I think as an artist, a lot of my role as an artist is to tell a story of who I am and who my people are. Telling those stories that need to be told, that need to be shared, of maintaining that history, that tie to the past, so that we can continue on to our future.
The Missing Piece Art Space promotes world peace.
Home is where you are. So my home now is here. But I come from Rwanda. I came here because of the genocide and massacres. So I was looking for a peaceful place to be, and I found my peace. So this is my home.
I am struggling right now as a Caucasian woman with white privilege. And I have become so invested in the immigrant community that when I experience being treated differently because I am a white woman, I feel sick inside.
Peace is a state of mind. Sometimes we just cannot control the violence around us, the anger, the undesirable things. But the way we react to them, that's where peace comes.
3 women, 3 cultures, 3 very different life experiences. There is but one goal: to explore issues of peace through art.
Art allows you to be a change agent because you're putting your emotions into tangible things and putting it into the world. I have started an organization called The Compassionary, and we're focused on projects that will bring people together. The diversity of our community and the needs of our community coming together.
One of the things that I'm adamant about is art should be able to help break those partitions. Once you put a barrier between 2 countries or 2 cultures, whether it's a real barrier or an invisible one, it's really difficult to break it. And so that's where art comes. It really helps in one picture depict the other side. It makes us see what other people are suffering. Once you see a picture, then that image is with you. It's not gonna go away. What is peace? What is that supposed to look like? And it depends on each artist. And I'm very against telling an artist, this is a peace gallery and this is what peace is supposed to look like.
On Detroit Street in Dayton is a little-known art gallery, the Missing Piece Art Space. Gabriella Pickett, an artist herself, dreamed of owning her own gallery and studio. While working with International Red Cross in Europe, she was asked to organize an exhibition to benefit children in Estonia. With elbow grease and vision, she created the space for the exhibition, which went on to become the Missing Piece Art Space.
Art, it's a universal language. We don't have to know everybody else's language as long as we can depict emotions in a canvas, because it can create empathy. And to me, that's the trigger. That's the way that we can communicate. Not to mention that it's a way to explore our own feelings and issues that are bothering us so that other people can learn and see where we come from.
Gabriella and Jean are fostering empathy in Dayton's diverse communities through the Mexican tradition of Dia de los Muertos, which includes a parade and display of altars at Missing Piece Art Space.
It's whimsical, it's joyful, it actually takes the morbid out of death and makes it strangely palatable.
Not everybody can embrace Mexican art and the notion of the Day of the Dead, because we see death as a celebration of life.
Culturally, it's so unique. It's equalizing. We all have loved ones, we've all had loved ones pass, and we all have that memory. And to be able to come together and celebrate through this tradition is magnificent. So I created an altar for my dad this last year, and it was about art creating, and it was about finding ways that I could speak to my memory of my dad in a loving, honest way. I resolved things through that process that I didn't know I had unresolved.
In addition to curating the Missing Piece Art Space and organizing Dayton's Day of the Dead event, Gabriella has become the voice for immigrant reform in Dayton. It began with a knock on the door.
Originally, I started working with refugees from Central Africa. They literally came to the gallery asking for summer camps for the kids, and that's how I started working with them. Severa is just an amazing person. I believe in what she's doing, and that's why we partner with her.
Because of the war, many people died, so we have many kids who don't have parents. There is free schooling, but they need uniform, they need books, and then they need food. So some we give them school fees, others we pay for the uniform and materials, others we pay for like lunch for the whole year, and then they will be able to go to school and learn, because as we say, hungry stomach doesn't have ears.
Because of Missing Piece Art Space, Severa has improved her art skills and helped more children. In addition to selling her own jewelry, she buys items from artisans and orphans back home, sells them here, and sends the money back to pay for their school fees.
For me, when that lady, that woman, that child is doing the art, like maybe he's sewing or weaving, she has this peace of mind. She's sitting with other people who are in the same conditions. They talk, they live, they have that smile. So it keeps them live positively. As I said, peace, I understand that it starts by your heart, your mind. So it gives them peace by sewing, by doing that.
You can sit with a pile of materials and begin to use your own memories to create something for someone else to see. There's a power in that expression that is beyond words. I think also in a community where we have so many languages, whatever you choose to use to create something that somehow is going to express a deeper set of feelings and beliefs and experiences, then we can build empathy between each other by sharing that art.
When I help somebody put a smile on their face, oh, I'm so happy. That's my big joy.
I don't expect people to come in here and go outside, out the door, with a totally different perspective of life, but I would like to just instill a little seed, for them to question their own social constructs, their own personal beliefs, and with the hope that maybe what I know as a norm is not necessarily true.
Dance, the Next Generation, is a ballet program where at-risk students receive a university scholarship.
Probably the best thing I took over when I got here was a program called Dance the Next Generation, which is basically, it's a program for children at risk of dropping out of school, dealing with the problems at home, etc.
Well, as far as the ballet is concerned, this program actually began 22 years ago. They start at 8 years of age, and we keep them until they're 17 or 18 in this program, and then they have an opportunity to get a college scholarship.
As far as I know, this is the only program that has that. There are many after-school programs for at-risk children, but none that really will follow up with a scholarship to university.
The children are identified when they're in the 3rd grade as being at risk for potentially not graduating from high school.
The schools will say, can you come and look at these students? We're really concerned about them.
When we audition the students, what we're looking for is a child who has some flexibility, but I'm not necessarily looking for a body type. I'm looking for somebody who's paying attention, who seems interested in what we're doing together as a group, and just watching for kids that are having fun.
And left, right, left, second, and close.
So they move through the program, 3rd grade, all the way through. Now it's all the way through the 12th grade. It used to be through the 10th grade, and now it goes to the 12th. And each year, in order for them to come back into the program, they must be doing well academically in school, and they must have done well this year through Dance the Next Generation. If the child completes the program and they qualify academically, there's a full 4-year scholarship waiting for them. So it really does transform their lives.
We don't think that the program is to train them as dancers, although there has been occasions where somebody has got that talent and we'll put them into the school, still on a scholarship level.
Right now I am a teacher at Brentwood Elementary. I started a PE movement program, which is the first of its kind in Florida. I'm also a teacher at Booker High School. I'm choreographing on their juniors and seniors for their spring show and fall show. And I'm teaching here at DNG with the little boys, teaching them their first ballet class, which is amazing for me because that was my first dance class ever. It's so inspiring for me as well because I've always wanted to teach boys of that age and really inspire them to see that dance is something that is not for girls or it's not for a certain type of person, it's for everybody. People of all cultures dance, people everywhere around the world dance, and I feel like in America there's a certain stigma about when you dance you're this or when you dance you're that, and to really be able to break that mold for them is lovely. I love doing it.
They go through all the basic technical terms, first position, second, but it's more the dance itself. So I always think dance is what happens between the steps.
But really, all the kids, they get into it. We challenge them, we push them. We just try and give them a really good experience and just help them to expand their horizons and just try something that maybe they didn't think they could do. I believe that dance is important because it really gives you a sense of, one thing, discipline. And not just your mind, but your body. And if you can control your body, you've got your mind in control.
But it's working together as a team. It's having that, bringing out a personality or confidence where you can actually stand in a class or on stage. And so we use all the elements of a ballet program to help them. Art is a great form of being able to bring something out in people. You have different doors that you can open which might give that release to make them be able to be more secure in life. So it's a component of all those.
You saw children that came in and had no self-esteem, no confidence, bad school grades, and wasn't their fault. So it was sort of a social program, basically.
We know that every student that completes the program actually graduates from high school. So it's a 100% success rate.
And that was really the thrust of the program, that they finished school and they saw that it didn't matter where you came from or what your background was, you could achieve something in life.
And for sometimes some of our students graduate our program, go on to college, and they could be the first people in the whole history of that family that have actually gone to college, or the first person on the street that is going to college.
Honestly, I really don't know where I would be without DNG. I was a very troubled child. I used to get in trouble a lot. I was actually kicked out of an elementary school. I had no discipline. DNG gave me all the qualities as a man that I have today are from DNG. And if it wasn't for people like that, I don't know where I would be. I definitely would have made it to college, that's for sure.
These kids do deserve a chance to get out here and be their best and to explore dance and to really enjoy it, because a lot of these kids they wouldn't have an opportunity to do that otherwise. So I'm very excited about that and grateful that we can make that available to them.
They're principals of high schools, they're English teachers, they're respiratory therapists. They're doing all kinds of things in every walk of life. And that's what's really important, is these are children that when they were 8 years old, there was very little hope that they would even finish school, let alone have careers and now be giving back.
I mean, every child, I think, can be successful and has something inside of that child. And I think it's us, our generation, that has to bring that out of the child.
Next time on Colores. Photographer Jonathan Blaustein goes grocery shopping with $1.
I was thinking about, what does it mean to be a food consumer in the 21st century?
Explore the challenges and stereotypes of hip-hop industry through multimedia theater.
Let's take a critical look at what's going on in mass media and pop culture and see what's really behind these images. Who's behind the money? Why are these images so important?
Sacramento, California artists want to remember their neighborhood.
And what better thing to use as our canvas than our history, and that is dumpsters. You see them all over the city, whether you're in the best part of the city or the not great part of the city. With the help of the artists, we turn these boxes into works of art.
We Care Arts opens its doors to those most in need of community support.
Art has that ability to connect. It fuels something deep inside somebody. When they create something, nobody can beat it out of them, nobody can, steal it from them. And that can be grown and that can be, encouraged.
Until next time, thank you for watching. Funding for Colores was provided in part by Frederick Hammersley Foundation.